welcome back after a little break to Theo Thoughts.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Jordan Peternell.
I'm Judson Page. Hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I know I enjoyed the break. It was nice just to have a chance to go home, relax, and gorge myself with food.
Absolutely. 3 Thanksgivings definitely fills you up over here on my side. But I hear that you got to go to a Brazilian steakhouse, which is that's pretty gnarly, man. I love Brazilian steakhouses.
Yeah, best cut of meat, picanha, is so good.
Mm.
Picanha and pão de queijo, it's a whole thing.
Okay.
But anyway, since we've been done with Thanksgiving now, we are entering the Advent season, and it is December 1st already, and we're going to have our first Sunday Advent here in just a couple days, and we are excited to be going through the Advent a little bit with you guys.
Wow. I didn't realize that today was December 1st. How
Yeah.
about that? It's almost like you go through 30 days of November and then it's December, huh?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
So for those of you that are less familiar with Advent, so in some Christian traditions, Advent is basically just the month of December with different pillars of Advent being celebrated each Sunday before Christmas. Now, this is often represented with an Advent wreath with 4 candles, 3 purple and 1 pink, and then a final white Christ candle in the middle. And then each of the candles has a different meaning. First one being hope, second peace, third joy, and fourth love. So we're going to kind of be going through some of those pillars throughout the next couple episodes. And yeah, just kind of discussing what they mean to us and diving deeper into the meaning of some of those words.
Sounds dope. And I'm not also quite as versed in this as you are, but I am super down to talk about pretty much whatever we get to in this episode about it, which you said were like the first 2.
Yeah, so we'll be talking about kind of, and this will be a thing for you guys. So I'm not sure quite yet how this is going to be posted, but each kind of pillar will get like 20 to 30 minutes of conversation. And then whether we do 2 in the same episode or 2 30-minute episodes, you can feel free to pause it at that point and then come back next Sunday to finish it up. But yeah, we're excited to get rolling here. So the first candle, it stands for hope, and this is the prophetic candle, and we see a lot of hope and prophecy back in Isaiah, especially with the coming of Emmanuel. And yeah, so Jordan, when you hear the word hope, what does that mean to you?
Well, hope changes everything. So in today's culture, I would argue that a mentality shift is one thing that could radically change the landscape of what we look at every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that comes from obviously the mind and how we look at things. And hope, I think, changes absolutely everything. The way that you look at things outside of usually like Debbie Downer people. It's funny. Sometimes I'll go to church and I'll be like, how are you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. And 9 out of 10 people will just say tired. And I'm like, wow, you guys sound really cheery, huh? You're at church on a Sunday morning, supposed to be praising God. And 9 out of 10 times it's tired, which it's okay to be tired, right? But think about saying hopeful makes it interesting, huh?
Yeah.
What do you think?
So, hope is a verse, Hebrews 11:1. Now, faith is the certainty of things hoped for, a proof of things not seen. So there's an interesting tie between hope and faith. Faith being the foundation of how we believe, because like hope doesn't require evidence. It's things that we long for, that we need, that we want. There can be good hopes, bad hopes, high hopes, low hopes. But the idea of hope is so innocent and pure in the idea of, a kid hoping, that Santa Claus is going to come down their chimney, or the hope of a struggling family that they're going to have another meal.
Yeah.
Way back that a family was going to make it through the winter before, electricity or whatever.
Yeah. I think it's almost like a sixth sense
Mm,
because the feeling of hope is kind of indescribable in the fact that it's not physical. I
right.
mean, not really. It's not, you don't smell it, you can't taste it.
Hmm.
You feel it, I suppose, but not like with your fingers.
Right. Yeah.
Your nerves aren't activated whenever you feel hope.
Hmm.
Um, and you can't hear it necessarily. I'm not sure if I said hear already. See it, I guess. So I think it would be kind of a sixth sense because it defies the odds. And I think
Hmm.
hope leaves people's imaginations too quickly sometimes because I know people struggling with addiction, they don't want to. A great example would be the man at the pool of Bethesda. Have you seen that Chosen scene?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So
Hmm.
whenever Jesus goes down and talk to this man, for those of you who don't know, there's a Chosen scene, very very powerful. I would tell you definitely to go look that up. Sometimes brings tears to my eyes.
Mm.
Sometimes, and the guy's just chilling on his mat, paralyzed and everything. And Jesus walks up to him and he's like, "I have a question for you." The paralyzed man's like, "I don't have many answers, but okay, shoot. Yeah, I'll try to answer." Jesus gets down to his level and says, "Do you want to be healed?" And they get into this big emotional sort of like standoff. And the paralyzed man, after a while, starts to cry, and he's like, I've tried." And Jesus says, "I know, and you don't want false hopes again."
Mm.
So I think on the side of hope, giving you an avenue to push forward, I think hopes that haven't been fulfilled also on the other side are an avenue for you to give up.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Hope is it's a weird thing because sometimes we can put our hope in something that maybe repeatedly fails us, and that can lead people to a sense of, oh, well, there's no point. Like, I already know what's going to happen, or like, why hope?
Yeah.
Why let myself be have that happiness of possibility?
Yeah.
And it can, when we it's not even necessarily when we put our hope in bad things, but sometimes we hope for something that is good. Like, sometimes we hope for a job or hope for a good grade or something. And but in the sense of hope, it's, like we said, it's no evidence required. It's based purely just on feeling. And when we don't get our hopes, it can be really kind of a painful time. And so it's weird to try and maneuver the dynamic of, it's important in all times to live in, the hope of Christ, the hope that Christ is going to come again, the hope that we'll see all of each other again in heaven, uh, and living your entire life with that joyful hope. It can be hard, but it can be really fulfilling.
Yeah, and I like your tie together of within Hebrews 11:1 of faith and hope,
Hmm.
because I feel like faith is usually the focus. I
Yeah.
think by proxy faith gives you hope, but I don't think that hope is always the focus. For example, I was in one of my classes and I like, how people just kind of disappear sometimes and you're like, "Oh, where the heck did everybody go? Did the rapture happen?" You know what I'm talking about? So that happened more so when I was a kid. But me and my friend Snyder were joking about it, and then we were talking about Jesus coming back. And he looked at me and was like, "Dude, I can't wait." And I was like, "Okay, like that's that's the attitude that I should have too."
Yeah.
But you don't think about it that often because you're
Right.
living life. You know,
Yeah.
you take the happiness that you have right now. You're working on your relationship with Jesus. You don't think about how like prophecy any day now.
Yeah.
Like no man knows the date or the hour. So
It could be tomorrow. It could be 100 years from now, 1,000 years. We don't know.
you're
But
absolutely right. So like hoping and waiting for Jesus to come back was one part of that I wasn't totally familiar with. Like I hadn't really thought of it that way. I know we were supposed to,
yeah,
and now I know like I am looking forward to it, to tell you the truth,
yeah,
because spending an eternity with my savior, my best friend, is huge,
yeah,
obviously. Like
yeah,
I can't understate that. But yeah.
yeah, for sure. I really like that. Because when it comes to like Revelation stuff, and, the prophecy of Jesus' second coming, and people can get caught up in the cinematic part of it of just like, oh well, watch out for this, or like you got people around the world guessing of just like, oh, I saw this, so I know when it's going to
The
happen.
tribulation.
And so it just kind of like gets in the back of my mind, but really that like there is a possibility that I could see Jesus on earth. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that'd be
Like
dope.
like that would be amazing. And so really like having that hope, like you were saying, of just like, man, I can't wait for that day to come. Like, and even tying back to the birth of Jesus, like Mary, like seeing an angel come to her and say, you are going to have a baby and it's going to be the Son of God, the Son of Man. I mean, I can't have a baby, but I think I'd be pretty freaking excited.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And like his disciples on the earth, I don't think this is sacrilegious. It came to my mind, so I'll be careful when I say it. But like, you know how excited you get whenever you go to a magic show and you see that guy doing all those tricks, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, there's some sort of trick to this.
Yeah.
But like Jesus being with his 12 disciples probably messed with them all the time through the power of the Spirit. It doesn't write about it. But, you know, John, maybe it's written about, you know, how it says like if we wrote down all the miracles that Jesus performed, perhaps all
yeah.
the books in the world would not be able to hold
Right. Yeah.
the information. So, and, you know, who knows? Maybe Jesus pulled a rabbit or two out of his hat.
I like to imagine that maybe he used some of his divine insight on somebody. Like maybe there was a guy about to go do something and he just knew their thought right beforehand, just gave him a look, just like, nah, just quietly shakes his head, just like,
Yeah.
I know what you're thinking right now.
Yeah. And just to clarify, I am not resigning Jesus down to the level of a lowly magician. Understand that. But like with that power, because that's all fake magic. This is
Yeah.
real, like divine power from
Right.
God, you know?
Yeah.
So there's a bit of a difference there.
So yeah, I've got a couple questions. So
Okay.
we've kind of talked about the correlation between faith and hope, and
Yeah.
faith being the foundation. How do religious communities cultivate and share hope as part of their teachings? So, like, how do, as we as people, as fellow Christians, how do we share this hope to the hopeless?
So my dad is a pastor of the Robinson Free Methodist Church, and he had an idea a couple years ago, which is at a lot of big churches now, and it's kind of moved, and it originated from him, and it's called Blue Christmas.
Mm.
And what the idea is that it is a focus service for the holidays to remember lost loved ones.
Mm.
And it's called Blue Christmas, and it's to honor them and just kind of remember their time and like the season of festivity, because like a lot of people are now alone. Like it's the hardest time to be alone of the entire year.
Yeah.
So like with all of like Advent and with all the holidays coming and going, like you also realize like, yeah, I'm really thankful for my family, but it also like really freaking sucks for people who are alone.
Yeah.
So cultivating hope, I'd say making it possible for people to be hopeful. That's why like the amount of joy that I have seen radiating from people that receive Christmas carolers
Mm.
is incredible to me.
Yeah.
Like literally, people just show up to your house and sing. But if like I can't tell you how many times I've had my cheeks pinched by on my face by an elderly lady, and yeah, like you know, they love Christmas carolers.
Yeah.
It's great hope.
Yeah. I remember our youth group, we would go around the neighborhoods back home and we'd sing. We would sing to some of the elderly people of our church that weren't always able to make it out the church during, road conditions or whatever. But those were good times. We really like that, giving people a reason to be hopeful, because, it's really hard when we have this idea of faith and hope of, proof of things not seen, and the non-evidence based belief, and that can be really hard for some people. So being able to give somebody just a little push of just like, here's that little bit of the proof in my smile, the proof in my spirit, the evidence of me giving you something or helping you out, or you seeing a loved one, that reason for hopefulness, it can be really powerful for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's honestly hilarious to me, the people who say that they only believe things based upon factual evidence, because to be honest, there isn't that much factual evidence out there. Faith and hope are definitely required for the scientific method. Definitely.
Yeah.
Hypothesis, you know what another word for hypothesis is?
Hope.
Hope.
I agree. Yeah, the idea, and I like what it says in that verse is that faith is not just the belief, faith is the certainty
Yeah.
of things hoped for. And that hope is the match that you're trying to light that you'll hope will light this fire. And faith is this is really dry wood and this is gonna happen. But that's the certainty.
Yeah. So would you say that faith produces hope or hope produces faith?
Let's see. Looking back at that, now faith is a certainty of things hoped for, a proof of things not seen. You brought up science, so hypothesis is the
Hypothesis,
hope.
if you will.
Hypothesis. The hypothesis. The hypothesis is what we want to happen, what we think might happen, what could happen, a possibility, and the faith or the fact is what is happening or what will happen no matter what. And the faith is that belief of like the hope is that if I throw a ball to you, you're going to catch it. That's the hope.
Yeah.
The faith is knowing how gravity is going to always work, that when I throw it, it's not just going to soar endlessly forever. The faith is knowing that once I throw it up, it will come back down into your hands.
Yes.
And in this scenario, let's say you're God. I mean, of course you're not God, but let's just say I'm
honored.
I'm throwing God a ball here. I'm throwing God my hope. Now I'm throwing this into heaven, so I'm throwing it as hard as I can. And now I'm hoping that you're going to catch it. But my faith is again knowing like the gravity or whatever. But the thing about the faith in God is that you will catch it. He will catch it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think they're kind of singular, but also codependent on each other.
Yeah.
Right. So if I look at a good analogy would be like if my son is playing football, okay. If I see the quarterback throw him a ball 30 yards down the field and he's wide open, which sounds better, Judd? Does it sound better to say, well, I hope he catches it, or I have faith that he will catch it?
Yeah, definitely the faith. The hope, yeah. That's interesting. That's interesting.
So I think it's a different way to look at it because I think hope a lot of times is viewed 50-50, right? So like hopes, you can say, oh, negative hopes or positive hopes.
Yeah.
Because it's not always a positive word. It has multi-meaning, I feel like.
Oh, yeah,
whenever it's not supposed to.
Yeah.
Like going back to our Christmas caroling thing, I think it's interesting that whenever you go Christmas caroling, it gives them hope in a younger generation, one that they didn't have. Their hopes were low for the younger generation.
Yeah.
So that's why they really, really enjoy like seeing what we do and then us like going out there and serving the community that way.
Yeah.
So I think that they have multi-meanings and they work singularly, but on the other side, I definitely see what you're talking about where one produces the other.
Yeah. Yeah, but I like that of, we do add our own connotations of context with hope and can use it in a negative way, like saying hoping that something bad happens to somebody else, or using the term of hope in a condescending way of just like, somebody's really ambitious about doing something and I say, well, I really hope it works out, in like to almost say in the subtext, it's not, but I'm gonna put on this fake smile for you.
Yeah.
And it can be so empty. And for somebody that has real hope to then take this negative, twisted, prickly, quote unquote hope and put that with them, that's not benefiting anyone. That's not benefiting you. That's not benefiting them. That's just bringing people down.
Yeah. I think that maybe there is a difference between the word hope used in common English language and the feeling of hope, which inspires faith.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like the hope of just like, oh, I want this to happen. I want this to happen, as opposed to, oh my gosh, I so want this I so want to see Jesus and I can feel it in every part of me. There's like I think with the rest of the world, there's hope, but it just stays in the mind. as
Yeah.
opposed to like,
Hope without faith.
Yeah, but the hope with faith is the hope that you feel all over, that you feel in your heart, that you feel in your soul. That's the true hope.
It's a driving factor for sure. And it brings me back to, you've watched Lord of the Rings, right?
Oh yeah.
So you know the Tree of Gondor.
Yeah.
So long story short, for those of you watching, in the third movie of Lord of the Rings, this isn't really a spoiler, but like the big castle city gets attacked. And they have this legend within the city that if all the petals fall off of the Tree of Gondor, then the people have lost all hope. Okay. And there's a part in the movie whenever like the city is under attack and it really looks like they're getting a real spanking, where it cuts to the tree and there's one single petal that is in bloom, which is hope. So I think that focus on hope for the people, even just that little bit of chance, is enough to inspire a little bit of faith, which then, like, you know what happens. And I won't spoil it for you, but it's not a bad ending.
If you haven't seen it now, like, come on.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. 27 Academy Awards between 3 movies.
Dang.
No other movie series has that. Anyway.
So that's kind of the idea of hope. I want to share this scripture. So this is Romans 5:1-5. Therefore, having been justified by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ, through whom we also have obtained our introduction by faith into his grace in which we stand, and we celebrate in hope of the glory of God. And not only this, but we also celebrate in our tribulations, knowing that tribulation brings out perseverance, and perseverance, proven character, and proven character, hope. And hope does not disappoint, because the love of God has been poured out within our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has given it to us.
So it seems that there's a distinction between the hope that we see nowadays and biblical right standing hope that comes from all of those things.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so that is the first candle of Advent. That is the first Sunday of Advent. We hope you guys enjoyed this portion. So if you want to stay up to date with all the info, follow at Theo_thoughts.podcast for all up-to-date details. Don't forget to check us out on WGRN 89.5 FM, Greenville University Radio, 7 p.m. Central, Monday nights. But we are now going to be moving on to the Peace Candle next. So if you'd like to tune in December 10th to listen to our Theo Thoughts on peace.
Yes, sir. Happy holidays, everybody, also.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Love y'all.
God bless.